Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for another edition of Payday 3's weekly news update via their dev blogs that they put up every Friday. I'm here as always to break it down and tell you what you need to know from this week's dev blog, and this one is all about Mask Mania. They went full frontal on it and owned up to a lot of mistakes, talked about the future of it, how it impacts the rest of Payday 3 events, so there's a lot to talk about in this and we're going to get through it as swiftly as we possibly can. Also a bit of details on Payday 3's first section of soundtrack coming out on Spotify. It's been out for a week or so now. I didn't really have a video to slide it into appropriately, so at least I can mention it now, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. So as always, if you're new to the channel or if you keep coming back and you haven't yet clicked that subscribe button, please do click the button below because it helps get us closer to that 40,000 subscriber milestone that I keep banging on about in all these videos. And also thank you to Starbreeze for sending me this dev blog early. If there are any spelling errors or anything like that as I've gone through this blog, I'm recording this afterwards, but I forgot to clarify. If you see anything and it changes at all before the live blog goes out, that's why. So thank you to them for sending it me early. I really appreciate it. So let's talk about the dev blog. They kick off by recapping what the event was, and they say, to summarize, we had 4 concept masks that players could unlock by earning cash at specific levels tied to each mask. Great, right? Well, not really, because they did do the math. They were calculating on how much players would be expected to earn over the event period, but in said calculations, they expected us to unlock 2 of the masks and reach about 40 to 50% on the other 2, but instead we only unlocked 1 mask and got 55 to 85% on the other 3. A predictable result if you pause a moment to consider things, which is really quite the self-report on them, because that just says that they didn't think it through. I mean, obviously, as we've argued in previous content, they didn't really think it through, but that's a bold way to describe it. Didn't they be quite so blunt about that? There's some pluses to it. More players join the game. Seems like the event was enough of a draw for some to start the game. A lot of you got extremely efficient at your chosen heist, mainly because we were playing the same heists over and over again. Don't know if that's the best or worst thing. Our analytics did what we had predicted. We had a few accidents, but we were able to easily and quickly adjust, and you unlocked 1 of the masks. I don't think that belongs in what went well, because it wasn't enough. If you remember in their dev blog where they explained Mask Mania, they said it would be easy to get 2, and if we banded together as a community, we could get all 4. Although saying that we'd reach 40 to 50 on the other 2 doesn't suggest they ever believed we'd have done that, which, do with that as you will. What went wrong then? A few things did go wrong. 1, vacations. The people who organised the event were on holiday when the event started, and that caused some issues with communication. I think that's just a terrible case of timing, purely because, as we said, this event's been cooking for about half a year, if not longer, so it just felt like it released half-baked at the wrong time. Like, why specifically when they went on holiday? Why not early in July before it had properly kicked off? First off, we don't have any in-game messaging at the moment, meaning players were largely unaware of the event unless they happened to check our website or socials, and this especially affected the console communities. No comment there. Next up, they didn't think out the rules properly. Had they made a progression bar and put the masks along the bar, it would have been fine, or they could have made it a vote where 2 or 3 of the most played heists led to a mask getting chosen. Yeah, there were multiple other ways you could have done it. They didn't show their numbers, meaning the goal felt impossible from the beginning, causing many to give up early. For the record, the cash goal was 100 billion cash for each mask, which didn't really matter as much when for the second half of the event they doubled income anyway, so it was a weird one. They also had a data hiccup, which caused some people to accuse them of trying to fib the numbers, which they didn't. I was going to mention this in my video earlier this week, but I did some investigation into it, and I personally had found they hadn't rigged it towards the end, so I didn't want to bring it up to stir false rumours, but they note that there was a spike in contribution on Sunday morning, which was them compensating for loud heists being mistakenly capped in their contribution. There's more details on that later. Also, a few people felt like it was pointless since the masks would be available through challenges after the event, and they didn't set the heists to play based on earning potential, but by heist themes. So that meant that people chose their favourites when they weren't trying for the event, and also just meant that money across the heists, you didn't always have balances between the money that you could earn from different heists based on different masks, which is another point that I didn't even make, but it is a valid one. So, what now? They're waiting for the masks to be released. The Shakedown Shark will be unlocked automatically to anyone that played the event, and the remaining 3 will be made available but locked behind devilishly difficult challenges. Oh dear. The masks are still in production. Shakedown Shark will be made available to anyone that played during the event in the next content update, and the other masks and their respective challenges are coming in a later update. This also means that those who didn't participate in the event will need to wait until then to get Shakedown Shark, so enjoy your temporary exclusivity. Oh dear. Right off the bat, I've got to just put my thoughts out there. These masks should not come out until they all come out together. I don't love the idea of Shakedown Shark coming out early. The thing is, we should have unlocked 2 of the masks anyway at base and could have unlocked all 4 based on what they'd pitched. That was never going to happen in the actual event. But purely just because of how this event was so flubbed up, making us wait for the masks now after the first one unlocking just feels very strange. I'm not the biggest fan of it. In some ways, I know some people will go, oh, that's fair, you know, the event reward comes out first, and I do kind of get it. But I think it's unfair on the people who didn't even know there was an event existing. If they find out that a mask that they would have easily got had they known an event was taking place is not available in their inventory until a later content update, which, based on Payday 3's general patterns, is going to be about a month in between, that's just not fair on them. If everyone knew about the event and it was reliably informed that it was taking place in this fashion, and maybe they'd said ahead of time there would be different update releases for different masks, I'd back it. But this kind of afterwards revealing that the mask we unlocked is coming in one update, the rest will come later, I don't love it. I don't love it, especially since there'll be challenges for all 4 anyway. I don't understand why they couldn't just drop them all at the same time. I really don't. So that is a problem I have with this. But honestly, I'm sick of moaning about Mask Mania, so I'm going to leave it at that and just keep moving. So, stats for Chads. They got a graph here which is very similar to Commander CH's graph. I'm wondering if maybe they worked with him on that. Doesn't say that anywhere, but it wouldn't surprise me because the graph is extraordinarily similar. So let's look at some of the most interesting parts from this graph. We did get some good stats from the event, and since we're good guys, we'd like to share some stuff that sounds eerily similar to when they called themselves Razzle Dazzle developers after completely nuking Payday 2's Steam matchmaking, but let's not go there again. First thing they spotted, so first the issues, was a plateau that exists around here where things leveled out. Represents server maintenance followed by a double contribution to compensate for that. At first, that double contribution sent way too much data, meaning you see that giant spike, so the increase here, followed by an equally huge drop here. We reset it fairly quickly, and you neither gained nor lost anything. But the next is a spike, which was a data error that was fixed immediately. So it wasn't even them applying the information. Over the weekend, you also see a rise in contribution, so after this point here. Both due to higher play numbers, but also because we announced an event contribution increase that gave a bit of a boost. And interestingly enough, when you look at it, you don't really see that much of a spike at the start. Shakedown Shark begins to shoot up quite a bit more, but a lot of the graphs, you wouldn't be wrong or foolish for assuming that it had barely changed, because looking at Gearhead, Cut Ice, and Disco Molly, there's not really as much of a sharp increase. Towards the end, some of them increase, especially Gearhead once Shark was unlocked, but it's very weird. Bear in mind the 100 million line is here, so anything that goes above that line is excess, and the Shakedown Shark did make more than 100 million. And last was us compensating for not giving you enough for some heists, because what they've done is set a maximum possible amount of earnable cash for each heist that lets us quickly filter out all the players who earn 10 trillion cash every 4 minutes. So in other words, they're basically trying to stop cheaters from contributing to the event. Problem was, they set the cap too low on some heists, so payouts should have been higher. It wasn't by a lot, but the spike is compensating for that lost cash. So basically, for heists contributing to Shakedown Shark or Disco Molly, so my guess would be Golden Shark and Under the Surface, because they're 2 of the biggest paying heists in the game, if not the 2 biggest when I think about it. But those heists probably had caps that were too low, so they tried to compensate for that by upping them both ever so slightly. That's all their thoughts on the event, but they do share some interesting stats. $308 billion were collected. Bear in mind, nearly half of that was when the cash was doubled. Shakedown Shark got 110 billion, Gearhead Grudge 81.8, Cut Ice 62.8, and Disco Molly 53.3. I can't believe that. That's such a low number. Either way, that is $2 billion on average per played heist. Sorry, $2 million. I can't read decimals, which is troubling for a maths tutor. Or an average of $644,000 per minute. 116,000 heists were completed, 21,000 of which were stealth heists, so only 18%, and the average heist lasted 16 minutes. And here's a really surprising one. It shares with you how many people were in each team that played. 16% on their own, 24% with 2 players, 15% with 3, and a full crew 45%. At least shows that maybe matchmaking is getting slightly better in Payday 3. Also, tools of choice. This one feels like a non-thing to talk about because the most popular loadout was the standard loadout. Maybe that just backs their point saying more new people played the game, or you've got people playing the game that still haven't changed their loadout, one way or the other. But the other most popular guns are the KU-59 and the SP Model 2. Interesting. 11, not 2. What is wrong with my reading today? But either way, in terms of future events, they say despite just making a whole blog about what didn't work as we wanted, we are happy with having run an event. And we're already planning more events for the future, which are bigger, stronger, and faster, and the community will help us shape the next event to be better. So thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on Reddit, Twitter, and the Discord. That's all the stuff for Mask Mania, but we finish, as I said, with a bit of an announcement that Volume 1 of the Payday 3 soundtrack is out everywhere on streaming platforms, so you can listen to it all on these places: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and Tidal. I don't know if there's probably any others that they've not linked there. I feel like there probably is, but either way, you can see that they're all available there. So that is the dev blog for today, talking about Mask Mania. I think it's nice for them to be candid about what went well and what went wrong, even if I think some things are still not perfect in here. On the whole, it's a pretty good blog, and they've gone into a lot of details that I really do appreciate, and accounting for even the things that were, like I said, accusations of numbers being flubbed towards the end that I didn't think had much weight to them. I'm glad they pointed out and explained what they were. Some wording's not perfect, and I will still not be a fan that Shakedown Shark comes out first when the rest of them come out later, purely because of the terrible communication this event's had. If it was well communicated, that was their plan, I wouldn't mind it, and it honestly is not a bad idea to get people to play to get the mask early, because that wasn't disclosed, and because a lot of people didn't even know about the event. Not very good. I'll be honest with you, I'm just looking forward to not talking about this event again. I hope their next event, as they've said, is going to be bigger and better than this one, because they've got a ways to go to make sure the next event is a lot better than to be frank, the absolute mess this one was. But as a lot of you know, I've tried my best to be more positive and optimistic in my Payday content recently, and this week in particular has been a bit more challenging in that regard. Some of you really haven't liked that, and I get it, I know you guys want positive stuff, but I'm trying my best to be as balanced as I can, and if there is a situation, and I said this even in my video addressing negativity in the Payday community, that if I still felt something was worth criticism, I would hone in on it, but I'm going to try and find the good in things where I can. That's what I always try to do. The unfortunate situation is just there wasn't much good in this event, and the update earlier this week, as I've said already, I think some people really did, with all due respect, over-exaggerate my thoughts on that update. I said it was mid. I didn't say it was bad. Simple as that. Anyway, I'll be looking forward to this week just basically going and never coming back, because I'll hopefully have some more positive things to talk about with Payday 3 coming soon in the future. Maybe the roadmap. Who knows? Or maybe the compensation items. Two big things, two big question marks still hanging over this game that still have absolutely no public word. So, keep your fingers crossed, maybe we'll hear something soon. Either way, thank you all for watching this video, I do greatly appreciate it. If you have enjoyed it, please make sure you click that like button to get this video out on the algorithm and get more Payday fans interacting with this content. And as I've said already, if you haven't already clicked that subscribe button, please do, to help support the channel and get us closer to that 40k milestone. Also, thank you very much for 10 million views on the channel. I just got a ping about that on YouTube last night, a kind of crazy milestone to have hit. It's going to be 10 years since this channel was launched in September, and it's crazy to think that 10 million of you have clicked on videos at some point or another in those 10 years. Bit nuts. So I really appreciate that. Thank you all. I'll see you all very soon with some new content. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you all in the next one.